So I start by saying, my brothers and sisters, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was the final prophet. As Allah tabarak wa ta'ala told us, the seal of all prophets. There is no prophet that came or is going to come after him, alayhi salatu wasalam. He's the final and last messenger. And when he came, the people were upon misguidance and darkness. The people of the scripture before, they distorted their books. And Nabi Muhammad came, and he came with guidance. As Allah told us in the Quran, يا أهل الكتاب قد جاءكم من الله يقول يا أهل الكتاب قد جاءكم رسولنا يبين لكم كثيرا مما كنتم تخفون من الكتاب ويعفو عن كثير قد جاءكم من الله نور وكتاب مبين يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام ويخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور بإذنه ويهديهم صراطا مستقيما. In these two verses, Allah tells us subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Ya Ahl al-Kitabi, the people of the scripture, meaning Jews and Christians. A messenger has come to you, yani Nabiullah Muhammad. The messenger came to them, to the Arabs, non-Arabs, everyone. And this prophet came with some of the things that you concealed in your religions and that you've changed. He came to restore that and bring back beneficial knowledge and righteous action. And for the 23 years of his prophecy, that's what he did, alayhi salatu wasalam. So the people are upon that misguidance. The 23 years that the prophet was alive, Nabiullah Muhammad, everybody would come back to him if they had any dispute. That's why Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, He told them, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. If there is any differences or disagreement that you have amongst yourselves, bring it back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing that you dispute one another in. وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing you dispute one another except فَحُكْمُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. The judgment is with who? The judgment is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bring it back to Him. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was the person they came to. If they had any questions, any disputes, any disagreements, the Sahabas would go to him and he would judge between them. Sometimes they won't see eye to eye on a matter. He will clarify it for them. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he passed away. And he prophesied that after his death, there's going to be a lot of things that the companions are going to see. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said to them, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever from amongst you lives, you're going to see a lot of dispute. This is something that he prophesied. Any one of you who lives, you're going to see so many differences and disagreements. Sah? Is that what we see today? So his prophecy, we can say it's true, right? He told us this. And what's fascinating is that it will never happen that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam will mention a problem and he won't mention the cure with it. Because that's his job. His job, alayhi salatu wasalam, the reason why Allah sent him out was that he mentions the problem and he also mentions the solution. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ عضوا عليها بالنواجد وإياكم ومحدثات الأمور فإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. The Prophet said, whoever lives from amongst you will see differences and disagreements. So do this. Hold on to my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali. Hold on to it. And stay away from the newly invented matters. The things that are introduced into the religion, do not fall for those things. This religion is complete. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. This religion is complete. As Imam Malik said, رحمه الله, فما لم يكن يومئذ دينا فلا يكون اليوم دينا. What was not a religion that day is not going to become a religion today. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he came, his job ﷺ was what? to tell us every road that will take us to Jannah, it was his job, alayhi salatu wasalam, to tell us. Did he tell us that? He did, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he even told us every route that will take us to the hellfire, he also told us that route. To stay away from it. Warned us of those roads and those routes. The Shaykh mentioned in the beginning of the lecture when he was talking about the virtues of knowledge, the ayah, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. The ayah clearly says what? This is my path and the path the people who follow me. So the Prophet had a path that he took. In another verse Allah says, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The Prophet ﷺ in this verse, what did he say? وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي, this is my path, فَاتَّبِعُوهُ, follow it. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ, and do not follow the what? The other paths. So then he told us that he has a path and there are also other paths. So at his time, he was the one that was clarifying things for the people. He told them everything they needed to know. Sahabas knew that. So when the Messenger ﷺ died, if there ever came a situation, a matter arose, they knew who to go back to. And that was what? The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. For example, when the Ta'un Amwas happened in Sham, a plague took place in Sham. Umar radiallahu anhu didn't know what to do in this particular situation. And the hadith mentions that Abdulrahman ibn Affaan, a noble companion, he came forward and he said, Umar, I have a hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam regarding this particular issue. There was a plague that happened in Sham, and Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to know the ruling regarding entering the land or the people leaving the land. What should be done? Look at the Sahabas, they don't take a step forward except that they want a revelation from it. And Imam al-Suyuti, Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, in his kitab Tadrib al-Rawi, he brought from Sufyan al-Thawri, where Sufyan al-Thawri said, Man istata'a minkum alla yahukka ra'sahu. Whoever from amongst you is able to not scratch his head except with the evidence, then try to do that. Do you see how tough they were and how much they wanted to follow the Quran and the Sunnah and the athar of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in and the Tabi'u Tabi'in? So Abdurrahman ibn Affaan said, I have an evidence from the Prophet ﷺ. Umar ibn Khattab said, well, what's the evidence that you have? He said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that if plague takes place in a land, it happens in a land, the Prophet said, no one should enter that land, and the people who are there where the plague happened, they should also not leave running away from the plague. In other words, don't let the virus spread and harm other people. And also don't put other people in a situation where they will harm themselves. Now when Umar radiallahu anhu heard this, he said, has anyone else heard this from the Prophet other than you? And another companion put his hand up and he said, yes, I heard it from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And Umar radiallahu anhu acted upon this. This shows you that this is what they were, the Quran and the Sunnah. Because that's what the revelation is. فَسُنَّةُ النَّبِيِّ وَحْيٌ ثَانٍ عَلَيْهِمَا قَدْ أُطْلِقَ الْوَحْيَانِ وَإِنَّمَا طَرِيقُهَا الرِّوَايَةِ فَافْتَقَرَ الرَّاوِي إِلَى الدِّرَايَةِ بصحة المروي عن رسول ليعلم المردود بالمقبول لا سيما عند التظاهر الفتن ولبس إفك المحدثين بالسنن فقام عند ذلك الأئمة بخدمة الدين ونصح الأمة فميزوا صحيحها من مفترى حتى صفت نقية كما ترى. The Sunnah was the second form of revelation. The Quran is the first and the Sunnah is the second. So they took both of those wholeheartedly. Abu Dawud narrated in his Sunan that one day the Prophet ﷺ was addressing his companions. He was talking to them. And he said to all of them, sit down. The Prophet said, sit down. Abdulrahman ibn Mas'ud. He was outside the masjid. And he didn't even enter the masjid yet. But he heard the Prophet's voice saying to the companions, sit down. He sat down outside. He sat where he was. Because for them, it is if the Prophet says something, they what? They do it. So this was the Ar-Ra'il al-Awwal, the first generation of people, the people Allah praised highly in the Quran. Muhammadur Rasulullah والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثل في التوراة ومثل في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه. Allah mentions their description. And if you look at that verse, Allah praised them externally and internally. He said, تراهم ركعا سجدا. If you see the Sahabas, they're in ruku', sujood, praying. And then Allah praised their heart. What did He say? يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. All of this, they're not doing it for people or names or social media or none of that. They're doing all of this for what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get closer to Him. So this is the jeel, this is the generation. They were around the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. They were his companions. That's why Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and he said in an athar, which is mawquf, وَلَا يَصِحُ مَرْفُوعًا, it stops at Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, you can't attribute it to the Prophet, that he said, مَنْ كَانَ مُسْتَنًّا فَلْيَسْتَنَّ بِمَنْ قَدَمَاتِ فَإِنَّ الْحَيَّ لَا تُؤْمَنُ عَلَيْهِ الْفِتْنَةِ. That whoever wants to hold on to a people, hold on to the path of the companions. If you want to grab onto a path, if you want to stick to a group of people, then take on the Sahabas and avoid those people who are alive. The people who are alive, avoid them. Stick to what? The Sahabas. Why? فَإِنَّ الْحَيَّ لَا تُؤْمَنُ عَلَيْهِ الْفِتْنَةِ. Because the one who is alive, you cannot reassure that he will stay upon this path. He might change. There's a chance he might leave the religion. May Allah protect us and protect you all. Then he mentions فَإِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا أفضل هذه الأمة. They were the best of people. وأبرها قلوبا وأعمقها علما وأقلها تكلفا اختارهم الله تبارك وتعالى لصحبة نبيهم فاعرفوا لهم فضلهم واتبعوهم على آثارهم فإنهم كانوا على هدى مستقيم. He says, righteous people. So this was what the Prophet left behind when he passed away. But they also had students, noble students. But before I go to those students, the Sahabas at their time, Abu Bakr ruled the Muslims for 2 years. He passed away. He gave it to Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar took over for a decade, 10 years. Umar radiallahu anhu passed away. And Uthman took over. At the time of Uthman, fitna occurred. Trials and tribulations. A lot of which the Prophet ﷺ already prophesied. The Prophet ﷺ, he stood up one day على أطم من أطام المدينة, a place which was very high in Medina. And he looked at the Sahaba's houses in Medina. And he said to them, this is what he told them. He said, إِنِّي أَرَى الْفِتَنَ, I see the fitan خِلَالَ بُيُوتِكُمْ كَمَوَاقِعَ الْقَطَرِ. I see the fitna entering your houses like the rain when it comes down, where it goes everywhere. I see the fitna is going to happen like that. He told them. He informed them of all of these things that are going to take place, these trials and tribulations that are going to come. So Uthman radiallahu anhu was killed, assassinated in his own house. He was fasting. That day in which he was killed, he was sieged in his house. This is a man, my brothers and sisters, just to give you the understanding, he was walking on this earth and he knew he was going to enter Jannah. He knew that he was going to go Jannah. Between him and entering Jannah was death, that's it. As soon as he dies, he's going to enter Jannah. None of us have that, do we? Does anyone have it? You all sure? Uthman had this. But a twisted mindset and a deviated belief made a group of people believe that this man deserves to be assassinated. See how corrupt, when a person's belief is wrong, how it can go far. Are we all together, brothers? So they assassinated him and they killed him. And this opened a floodgate of fitna for the ummah. And the Sahabas, from that moment onwards, they used to take a stance because of the trials and tribulations they saw. They used to take a position. Abdullah ibn Affaan, Muslim mentions this in his Muqaddimah. Al-Imam Muslim, by the way, when you say Rawahu Muslim, Sahih Muslim is one of the kutub which are Sahih, right? Bukhari, and after the Quran is what? Bukhari? And which one is which is the biggest one from the two of them, the highest one? أول من صنف في الصحيح محمد وخص بالترجيح ومسلم من بعد يعني Muslim came بعد after Bukhari ومسلم من بعده Muslim came after it. Another poet, he said, تشاجر القوم, the people, they disputed one another. Which one is more sahih? Bukhari is more sahih, and Muslim is what? And Muslim is more better organized. So Al-Imam Muslim, when he narrates a hadith in his muqaddimah as a side benefit for the students of knowledge, you cannot say Muslim narrated it like that. You have to tell Muslim narrated in his muqaddimah, because his muqaddimah is not part of the conditions of his sahih. Does that make sense? The introduction can have weak and authentic stuff in there. So, like in the sahih, everything inshallah ta'ala there is authentic بإذن الله الكريم. إلا ألفاظ يسيرة لكن صحيح. Anyways, Al-Imam Muslim mentions in his introduction that Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma was one day sitting somewhere, and a man came and he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And the Sahabas back then, if someone said قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, they wanted it so much, so they would listen, they would say, yes, what did the Prophet say? But Abdullah ibn Abbas at this time did not give any attention to this man. This was after the fitna of Uthmaan ibn Affaan. So he didn't listen to him, he ignored him. The man said to Abdullah ibn Abbas, I'm saying to you, قال رسول الله, and you're not listening to me? Abdullah ibn Abbas said something that shows you the way this fitna of Uthman's death, the way it affected. He said, before the fitna happened, if someone said to us, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, we used to be attentive, we would listen. But when the people started to make up narrations and things got messed up and it became no true information, reliable information was being brought forward, we avoided listening to everybody. We what? We avoided. We only listened to who we knew were reliable. Now this is when the science of hadith is being carved now. Not everybody's narration is taken, only those who are reliable. And we're going to go into that later. So this issue of Uthman's death, it caused what? It caused a lot of problem. And then, brothers and sisters, a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is where we're going to start the lecture from, that was all an introduction, is the Prophet, he prophesied, and he said, افترقت اليهود على 71 فرقة. The Jews, they broke up into how many groups? 71. وافترقت النصارى على 72 فرقة. And the Christians, they broke into how many groups? 72. Then the Prophet said, وستفترق أمتي على 73 فرقة كلها في النار إلا واحدة. قالوا من هي يا رسول الله؟ قال من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابي. The Prophet, he said, my ummah is going to be divided into how many? 73 sects, 73 groups. Another riwayah actually says, على 73 نحلة. Religions. Okay? 73. كلها في النار. All of them are in the hellfire except what? One. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when he said that, the Sahabas, they said, Ya Rasulullah, who is going to be the saved group? And the Sahabas were very smart. Wallahi, you can see the way they ask questions. They didn't say, There's 73 that are misguided. Who are they? They didn't say that. We probably would have said that, right? But no. If I told you right now, to go to Amsterdam, there are 100 ways. 99 of those routes are wrong. They'll take you far and problematic and issues. But only one route will take you to Amsterdam, nice and smooth. What will you ask me? Which, You'll just say, can you tell me the route that takes me to Amsterdam? That's the best, huh? That's what the Sahabas did. They asked the Prophet ﷺ, who is that one group that will make it? The beauty about it is that the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't say, the people who are going to make it is the list of the following people. Fulan and Fulan and Fulan and Fulan and Fulan. He didn't say that. He gave a description that alhamdulillah, as long as we follow it, we are good. We're safe. You don't have to sign a contract. You don't have to sign the dotted line. You don't have to go to a masjid and give them a pledge of allegiance. You don't have to pray in a particular masjid and be with a particular group of people. No, you don't. All that is required from you is to come with this description, and insha'Allah ta'ala, you're good. Don't worry. And that's what? So simple, it's nothing complicated. مَنْ كَانَ عَلَى مِثْلِ مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ الْيَوْمَ وَأَصْحَابِي. Whoever is upon that which I and my companions are upon today. If you are upon, if what you're doing from this religion, you can reference it back to the Prophet and his companions, then you don't have nothing to worry about.